Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for attending. Very happy to be here. So this is our first event that we've done in Vilnius. We don't typically do conferences in Lithuania or Vilnius, so I'm really excited to be here today. We have lots to tell you, lots of information. I'll give you some overview. There's an agenda which I'll run through. We have 45 minutes, so we should be able to go through quite a lot of content. So without further ado, I'll kick off. So quickly, we'll run through some introductions. We'll talk about Letley, who we are, the sort of services we have, and the sorts of capabilities we offer. We'll also give a brief overview around Amazon Web Services. So for those that don't have any introduction to that, hopefully we should be able to bring some insight. DevOps in Amazon. So we're very keen to show you some of the tools, some of the processes, some of the methodologies that we've adopted and learned over the years. I'd love to go through some of that. And also something around security and operations and how DevOps integrates with that. So I'm going to cover around the overview and who we are, and then I'll hand it over to James. So, introductions. Who are we? So, co-founders, myself, Javid Khan, and James Letley, co-founder and CEO. I'm CTO. Now between us, we've got something around 30 years experience in the enterprise world. So, story of how Letley was born. We're 2.5 years now of being formed. We are a startup. We individually have 15 plus years experience around the enterprise world. We've done lots of work around some of the biggest consultancies in the world. We've got lots of experience in various industry sectors. We cover things around healthcare, finance, lots of government, also e-gaming, so lots of internet-facing stuff. And that's between both of me and James, and I'll go through it in a bit more detail on the next slide. So, as you can see, our mission, we are superheroes, the way we see it. So our mission is to introduce automation into the world. So it's quite a funny story. Just now I was interviewed and I said, give me one word when you think of DevOps. And the first thing I could think of was superhero. And they all laughed. Why is that? They said, well, if you look at the detail, you have lots of infrastructure today that's very archaic. You have lots of famine amongst the infrastructure, devastation. You have, teams fighting with each other, our development teams over here, beating up operation guys over here. My application works, it's not an application fault, my infrastructure's fine. The instances are configured accordingly, it's your fault. I've seen it, I ran teams that have that problem. So the way I see it and the way Letley's approach is that we like to see ourselves as superheroes. We are here to bring change in the way we think, the way we introduce tools, the way we introduce methodologies, and taking some of the best practice that DevOps brings. I'm not going to tell you guys how to suck eggs. I think everyone knows DevOps and the concept of DevOps, but do you truly, within the Amazon world, and that's something that we bring to the table, is taking DevOps and taking its process, taking its methodology and integrating it with the tools around Amazon and leveraging some of the Amazon toolset. So Letley and the name itself and the concept of Letley, it's a virtual layer. So the idea behind Letley is that we like to see ourselves as an abstract layer across the business. So if you're a business that have lots of IT infrastructure issues or issues around your process or issues around rapid deployment, continuous integration, we like to see ourselves and value ourselves as a virtual layer. So we definitely integrate our tools, our skills, and more importantly, our processes on top of businesses. And we've definitely found that adoption to be true value add. So, just quick high-level bullets on who we are. So, as I said, we're 2.5 years, founded in November. We are Amazon Advanced Consulting Partners, and we pride ourselves to be. We also are channel reseller partners, but one of the most recent developments is that we are Amazon Managed Service Partners, which is quite a big achievement for us. It's taken us 12 months to get the tools and the team in place and the right process, and it's something that we boast about now and we're very proud to announce. So this is only off the back of a month ago. And to put that into context, in the UK, I believe there's only 5 Amazon Managed Service Partners. So it's a big achievement. We're also Microsoft Cloud Server partners, so 95% of our business is around the Amazon space, so we do have some requirements around Azure. I will focus more of the presentation on Amazon, but feel free to reach out to us and we can tell you about some of our Azure experience if required. We're London-based, as you probably can tell, so we have offices in London, a very small presence, but something that we're very proud to say is that all of our key technology centre is in Vilnius. We actually decided to start up the company with Lithuania in mind. We're very, very aware of the skills that are here, and all you incredible people here. You know, you get technology. It's something that we have, you know, scarce availability in London. There are some good guys, don't get me wrong, but the guys here truly do get it technically. There's some very skilled people and individuals, so that was one of the key reasons why we came out to Lithuania. Secondly was the internet. Your guys' internet is absolutely fantastic. Your backbone and your infrastructure is awesome. So something that, you know, being a technology company and being a cloud-based company, we wanted to leverage. And also Old Town is fantastic. We love the sightseeing and the beautiful views. So we decided to set up shop in Old Town. And you know, we started off only with 3 or 4 people in Old Town, and now, you know, we've grown to 30-odd engineers and cloud ops teams and DevOps teams. It's awesome. So we've seen this progression over the last year and a half. So we're definitely something that we're proud to announce. We are ISO 27001 security certified. Something again that it's a hard achievement to do, but something we're proud ourselves to have. We do apply that process and those security standards across many industry sectors, and something that most of our customers and our future clients would like to have integrated in their own infrastructure. So it's something we like to offer. Our key offerings as Layer V and what we do is those 3 areas. We concentrate around cloud adoption, we concentrate around the DevOps and automation, and finally we are a next generation managed service provider. So cloud adoption, we help take and integrate, transition into the cloud. If you're not already there, we help you optimize. DevOps and automation, as you all know, is all about continuous integration and rapid deployment, and finding where possible areas where we can automate. And MSP, you know, introducing some of the really clever and intelligent tools that are proactive, that really monitor and really do provide, you know, informative and useful information. Not node is down, you know, doesn't mean anything. How did it go down? What, you know, some synthetic transactions, why did it go down? Giving some real insight to resolving future issues. Continuous compliance, something that we're very proud to announce. You know, we have a platform that has a multiple array of tools, and we've got a slide later that James will go around into that, but it's all about ensuring that our customers and their infrastructure is constantly compliant. So making sure that the patch releases are updated accordingly, any of the releases are in check, and it's just constantly checking across the infrastructure stack. Fintech startups and enterprises, they're our customer base. They're the industries that we like to explore. That's the target market for us, which is working out really well. Fintechs especially, we have a good security mindset and very good security tools in place, already integrated with us, with our compliance, continuous compliance platform. So that's something that we tend to head for. Then the neutral. So as much as we're saying we're Amazon partners, we are a trusted advisor around the vendor neutral space. So if you come with us with some requirements, we'll always ensure that we give the best advice. And finally, we're a growing team, as I mentioned before, and hiring, FYI. So don't want to talk too much about capabilities, but we application migration management, we do security optimization, we automate our deployments for DevOps and managed environments, industry expertise and compliance. You know, we have lots of experience involved, and we've also got lots of customers in a range of the industries, primarily those 3 I mentioned, and it's something we can adopt into our future base. And we're 24/7 managed service, and that's you know, facilitated by our centre. So Amazon overview. So why Amazon? As you can see, that's a Gartner. So top right is Amazon Web Services. So it's actually quite nice to demonstrate to our customers and our business that Amazon are truly looked upon as market leaders. They are the best in what they do. Proven experience, they've been around for 15 plus years. They deployed time and time again infrastructure. They've rectified and they've redeployed, and they've got it right, and they're still growing with that expertise. Diverse industry use cases, you know, it's applied across different and many platforms and many backgrounds and many industry sectors, something that we're leveraging. rich array of infrastructure service and platform as a service capabilities, and that array is growing. It's something we leverage. They're a large tech partner ecosystem, so they have one of the biggest marketplaces with some of their technology partners, and they integrate very well with Amazon. Something we integrate with as part of our automation and tooling, which again James will go through in a bit more detail. And rapid service offering, when they first started, they had a handful of services. Today, I believe they've got something like 200 plus services, and they are adding by the month, and it's something that we definitely leverage as they go on. Just to give you, I'm not going to go through this in detail, but this is to give you an overview of the type of offerings they have and capabilities that they offer. And again, we leverage on all of that. So from the top, they have a marketplace of all the apps. That's all about the ecosystem I'm talking about. All the application areas around the analytics, services, mobile, development. Infrastructure as a service, pretty much as the core. So their EC2, their S3 and their storage, their RDS and databasing and their networking. And then all on the left-hand side is their federation and their hybrid and their integration platforms. What's highlighted isn't very clear, but it's the DevOps tools and the DevOps resource management, and that's the areas that we tend to leverage, and that's something that we would like to go through in a bit more detail as James goes through some of the integration and some of the applications that the way we leverage the application. So just on that DevOps piece and some of the tooling and some of the process, with Amazon, they come to the table with out-of-the-box tools. Now, Elastic Beanstalk is looked upon as more of a PaaS, platform as a service. It's a wrapper of applications, all integrated. You can deploy a bit of code into the infrastructure, into the application platform. It leverages infrastructure as a service, and it's kind of wrapped around all in, as an easy, automated deployment end to end. And it's used, and that's the convenience arrow you can see at the bottom there between automation versus manual, convenience versus control. And as you go down the spectrum, you find that you can definitely leverage Amazon in different ways. So you have the Elastic Beanstalk being the far left, being very automated, very convenient. Those that don't really want to concentrate too much around the infrastructure, they just want to deploy their application. To the far right, where it's pretty much do it yourself. It's the ability to deploy your own AMIs, it's deploy your own VPCs and configure pretty much those instances on demand. And in between, you've got your Amazon OpsWorks and your cloud formation, and that's all about how much infrastructure we leverage versus how much application and platform as a service we leverage. So the reason why I'm showing you this is that if you were to use Amazon tools end to end, you would do a good job. But in the real world, sometimes you have to use third-party tools and third-party methodologies. So I'm not an Amazon salesman, so I could sell this all day long and say it's the best, it's the world, it's the greatest. Good tools, but in the real world you need to understand that sometimes that doesn't fit. It's not a one-size-fits-all. So, somewhere we like to pitch ourselves in the automation piece, somewhere in the middle with a view that we obviously want to get to the left. And we adopt those principles by integrating with third-party tools and other mechanisms. And again, James will talk about the correct way, the documented way, the best practice way versus real world and what we've seen and experience we've grown over time. And leads me on to the DevOps piece. So this over to James to talk about some of the cool stuff that we do.
Hi guys. So as Javid said, the bit that you're interested in is the Amazon bit and how that fits in with your DevOps processes. And the first thing to kick that off is I'm going to talk to you about what the perfect pipeline might look like. This is meant to be an example. This isn't the only way to do it. This is just an example, and I'm going to reference the Amazon tools against this. So it all starts with your code. Some of you will be more dev than ops in this room. It starts with your code, and your main goal is to get your code deployed to a server and doing something useful. So it starts with your code committing. That event is going to initiate your build. You want to kick off a build based on your code being deployed to your source control. You've got your build at that point. It might be compiled. It might be that you're pulling libraries in. It might be that you're building artifacts. The end result of that is something that you want to deploy, and you've got those artifacts. You need to commit it. You need to put that somewhere to later use. And then, like I said, an example. Typically, you're not going to deploy your code straight into live. I know some people do, but more often than not, we want to see this stuff tested. So you're probably going to do a system test, a unit test of some sort. So when you do that deployment, in a DevOps world, you want to automate your tests at the end of that. You want to make sure that you pass just basic sanity tests. It's compiled, it doesn't kill the server, you don't get a 500 error for everything that goes to it. So you're going to automate your tests at the end of your deployment to a unit test environment. You're probably then going to deploy it to a QA environment. You're going to want to do something a little bit more intensive in terms of testing. So on the end of that, you're probably going to redo your automated tests because you've got them, you might as well do them again. You're probably going to do something a little bit more exciting, like you might do NFR tests, non-functional requirements like performance or resilience or something a little bit more involved. And then you're probably going to do some manual tests at that point. So you've just deployed a new feature, and you haven't written your automated tests yet. So there's a natural pause probably in the automation at this point. You're going to do your manual tests before you deploy into prod. So that's your pod deployment, and likelihood is you're going to run some smoke tests at the end of that to make sure that the environment is up, because you've got the tests, you might as well reuse them, it's automatic. So how do you do this in Amazon? So I'm going to go through that slide that Javid showed you a minute ago of the convenience versus the DIY, that spectrum. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples of where the Amazon tools fit into this. And the first one is Elastic Beanstalk. So our pipeline across the top, we're going to try and achieve that pipeline using these tools. And the first thing you see, so we've got Elastic Beanstalk, and if you haven't used it, Elastic Beanstalk is a really great entry point in terms of automated deployment. It's very simple to set up, and it does all of your infrastructure control all automatically. It's really well suited if any of you guys are using Docker. It's great for that. It uses Elastic Container Service in the background to deploy your Docker images across different environments, and that linkage is really easy. In terms of who likes this stuff, which of the services from Amazon are liked by different people, this is the one that starts at the dev end. Developers love this, and the more complex stuff is the infrastructure guys tends to be. So our starting point, we've already set Elastic Beanstalk up. You do that once, you do it through the console probably. Obviously, anything you do with Amazon, you can do via the command line, you can do it via the API. But you're going to have your three environments. You're going to have your system test, your QA, and your production environment. And Elastic Beanstalk is set up. So, in terms of Amazon services, code commit, this is their code repository. It's, in essence, a managed service code repository, rather than doing it yourself, rather than hosting a GitLab, for example. There's a little asterisk at the end of that because it's only available in North Virginia at the moment, so probably not terrifically useful for a lot of you guys. I don't know where your systems are deployed to. And it's a relatively new service as well. So we've got our code, we've committed it. At this point, we need something to orchestrate the process, and this is where code pipeline fits in. There's two asterisks there because it's also only available in America, and I think that one's available in 2 regions now. But it's an orchestration layer, and it links very nicely, as you'd expect, with all the other Amazon services. One of the integrations that's got out of the box, one that we've used, is with Jenkins. So code pipeline is your orchestration layer. It's the thing that is actually setting the process. You define your steps within your pipeline, and you link in, you put in the steps of what you want to happen at each point. And one of the integrations with Jenkins, as I said, so you can use it just as you'd use a Jenkins slave. So you're running your build at that point. So we've done our code commit, we've done our build through a Jenkins slave. We're going to deploy. That's pretty much it. And that's the beauty of Beanstalk, is that it's straight out. You put your next step in, code pipeline integrates with Beanstalk directly, and you go straight into your ST environment, straight into QA, and then when you're happy with that, it's deployed. So real-world examples, like I said, that code commit is pretty new service, so we haven't seen too much of that used within our customers, and typically what we use is GitLab. A lot of people will use GitHub, which is fine for most circumstances. As Javid mentioned, we do a lot of work with finance, and finance tends to get a little bit concerned about security, so hence hosted GitLab within EC2. Likewise, code pipeline, if you're not using code pipeline, you're just going to use Jenkins or TeamCity or something similar to run your orchestration. So that's probably a more real-world example, and what we've seen up until those two new services were announced. So another example using this time code deploy instead of beanstalk. So this is a little bit more control at this point. CloudFormation is what Amazon have as a software-defined infrastructure, and it's a really powerful tool. So you're creating your environments, all of your infrastructure, everything from your virtual private clouds, your subnets, your security groups, all of your load balancers, images, RDS databases, everything is software defined, it's in a JSON format. You drop that with your parameters and you drop that into CloudFormation, and 20, 30 minutes later out pops your infrastructure fully configured as you've defined it. And you can do all sorts of stuff like setting your startup scripts to pull data down from pull SSH keys, all of that software deployment. So take it from your AMIs that you've pre-baked, or take it straight from the raw Amazon Linux image. It's a really powerful tool. So in this example, we're going to say we've already got CloudFormation in place. We've built our 3 environments. They're up and running. If you want to change them at any point, you just update the CloudFormation template, and all those changes get applied to your infrastructure dynamically. It's really powerful. So let's pretend we're using code commit again. So we've got our code, we've committed it, it's gone into code pipeline. We're going to use Jenkins again to do our build. This time the artifacts, let's say we're doing a Java deployment in this case, and we're going to build some WAR files. We're going to put that out into S3. S3, if you don't know, is the simple storage service. It's really simple storage, and it's a service. Very easy to use, file-based storage system for cloud, very easy to access and link into. So our artifacts are there, we're going to pull them, we're going to use code deploy, which is a deployment mechanism, as it sounds like, within Amazon. Again, it's a managed service, so instead of writing the code yourself, instead of managing that deployment to each individual instance, all you're doing is installing an agent and telling code deploy what code you want on which box. And it does all the orchestration in terms of coordinating deployment to environments in the right order, and making sure that your system runs and is deployed as you'd expect it to be. So at this point we've done our system test environment. We're going to do that into QA. This time we're going to use some testing infrastructure. So why not do this through Jenkins? We've got so code pipeline, you can kick the job off there. Really what you're doing is kicking off a build within Jenkins. So Jenkins, as you'd use right now to coordinate your tests, you do exactly the same thing in this example. And maybe you're using Selenium or JMeter or some other automated testing system. But you're going to coordinate with that. That testing is going to hit your QA deployment. And then likewise, once you've done that, you're going to do it into prod. So real world example, again, we'd expect to see GitLab there, and as code pipeline is new, we're seeing Jenkins pipeline being used in that place at the moment as well. So this is an example of the fully customized Amazon deployment. So this time we're going to use code commit or GitLab. We're going to use Jenkins pipeline. Do you guys all know Jenkins? I don't need to explain this to you. It's a pretty common tool out there. So we're going to use our slave to do our deployment, our build. We're going to create our artifacts. We're going to put that into S3. We often use GitLab to store our compiled artifacts as well. It's an option. You could do that equally into code commit. It depends how you want to manage your artifacts. And then we're going to use Ansible as our example. We're going to use Ansible as our delivery mechanism. And Ansible is again, if you've not used it already, it's a really powerful, really simple tool. It allows you all of the customization that you want to do within the Amazon environment. And the great thing is there are plenty of playbooks out there that link directly into the Amazon API. So at the very basic level, anything that you're doing with CloudFormation or any of the other deployment tools through the console, through the CLI, everything you do can be done through the API. So if you link Jenkins with Ansible with the Amazon API, really you can do anything. it's incredibly powerful in what you can achieve very quickly in automating those instances. And the difference, the cool thing in this example that we're saying is you haven't pre-built your infrastructure, potentially. You could do it also with CloudFormation, but why have your infrastructure sat there waiting, doing nothing? You're not going to do it, use it the weekend, why pay for it? So using Ansible, let's build that infrastructure on the fly. We know exactly what it needs to be. We're just going to run our API calls and build that ST environment. Once we've done that, we'll do QA. We'll do some testing as before, and we're coordinating this all through Jenkins. And then again, we'll do that into our prod environment. Again, GitLab, we'll see quite commonly. So this is kind of trying to give a slightly different flow of what this looks like in that last example in terms of how the various bits interact. So at the top here, I'm imagining this is your source control, and you've got a feature branch, and you've got your master branch. So we're going to commit our feature. We're going to set Jenkins to have webhooks so that we're automatically kicking off that Jenkins build. Jenkins is going to link into Ansible. It's going to use it as its deployment tool. That's going to build our environment through the API. So this environment doesn't exist. We're going to build it on the fly. We're going to then use Ansible to do all the configuration and all the deployment into our newly built EC2 instance, which typically 5 minutes until the instance is available. Complete networking an instance. And then we're going to run our test again from Jenkins. That's where we're going to run the test from, coordinated from. And then, importantly, this is the bit that saves you money, is destroying the environment at the end of it. That you've only used it for that test, that system test. You're going to do maybe one commit a day for some guys. I know there's people who want to deploy to prod 10, 15 times a day. That's also fine. You just use it whenever you want. But destroying the environment at the end of it, that's the key advantage here. So then, at the end of this, to kick off the next stage of it, we're going to merge that with our master branch. That again is going to kick off Jenkins and Ansible, build our environment, and the build environment in this sense might be doing red-green deployments, or A/B deployments. I don't know how you guys describe it, but where in typical old-style infrastructure, you'll have a fixed environment and you're going to deploy to it. You might put your page up saying service not available for 10 minutes. In this example, because you can just build a whole new infrastructure in parallel to your existing infrastructure, you do that through the API, and then your actual deployment is just the cutover. You're just changing your ELB at the front end, perhaps, or just whatever Nginx config to deploy that. So we're going to build a new environment in parallel to your existing one. We're going to deploy to it using Ansible again, and then we'll run whatever cutover that looks like. So that's your seamless cutover using environments on demand. So just talking a little bit more about SecOps. I know this is a DevOps event, but the security in a dynamic environment is a little bit different as well. So if you're doing all of this environment on demand, your infrastructure is now a moving target. It's not, you don't have a fixed set of IP addresses that you're monitoring. You don't have a fixed set of servers. You don't, your admins may never log into the servers that you're deploying here. You don't even necessarily need SSH access into some of these boxes. So your environment is a little bit more dynamic, which means that your security in your new environment needs to be dynamic as well. So just going to talk you through what we've built in terms of what we're branding our continuous compliance setup. So talking, I need a stick. So going from the top left then. So this, by the way, this is our compliance setup in terms of an entire environment security monitoring. So top left, we're industry alerts. That's what you've got to do. You've got to read the news. You've got to see what security stuff is coming out, and send that into our ITSM tool, which is our central point for our service desk guys to look at. Anything that is an alert generated in any of our environments goes into one single pane of glass. There's a ticket created for everything that happens. So new patches are released, a ticket happens when our guys looks through it and sees where that's relevant for our customers. On the left, dynamic access control. So we're doing, we have a Bastion host tool, which means that anybody that actually needs to connect to these instances, because it isn't as often as it used to be in old school fixed infrastructure. They're gonna log on to our Bastion host. That ticket is going to go to our ops team, and they're going to say yes, you can connect. You've got to change control, and that session is recorded. On the left, we've got some old school monitoring tools, and that's just monitoring standard server behavior. That's all as you'd expect. The only bit that's different there is that we're configuring that monitoring tool dynamically as the server is created. So we can ensure that every server that's created in our Amazon environment, through all this DevOps process, goes straight into our monitoring system. Ansible, bottom left, we're, in addition to using it for deployments, we're using it for inventory, so and Ansible facts, pulling those back in, and we can get a list of security patches outstanding, for example. The exciting bit down the bottom here, so the Amazon Web Services or Microsoft Azure, whichever cloud provider you're using, what we're doing is taking a regular complete inventory of the cloud account and pulling that into our central dynamic CMDB. So every 5 minutes, if there's a change in Amazon, that change is registered into our CMDB. We can see everything that's happened. We get a full history of every instance that's been created, every security group, and we've got that all in one central place dynamically. And from that, we can do some really interesting stuff. We can then set security policies on that. So we can say, for example, that we want to make sure that every instance that's out there is monitored. We can create a report or an alert on any instance that's been up for more than 10 minutes that hasn't yet been monitored or that hasn't yet had our AV security or IDS systems connected to it. So on the very right, AV security, so we're reporting that status into our dynamic CMDB, monitoring on the left, and we're creating alerts, IPS and malware alerts into our ITSM. And then in addition to that, we've got some compliance tools that are, again, directly reading from the cloud that are saying, these are our security policies, these are the security best practices, and this is a list of all of the servers or groups or firewall rules that don't meet your compliance or don't meet best practice or are even not the most cost-effective way of doing it, which is also a great tool. And then lastly, top right, SIEM. So we're also pulling all of those logs. So we can configure the instances immediately to log everything that they do into a central logging system, and those logs go into that central ITSM. So again, all these tools are configured dynamically, and this is part of your DevOps process is to make sure that includes all of your operational tools like this, like the security stuff, like server monitoring. So I don't know how we were doing on time. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. So questions. Oh, come on.
Maybe any questions?
Hi.
Can you switch back to a slide where you describe the deployment and testing process? Yeah. Actually, the process that you described is really cool, but I think you work with really different structures, and you know that creating a build environment for each build sometimes would be really expensive, especially in AWS. As for example, if you're running for each build several R4 group/servers, you are just wasting money. How do you think, what is the best balance between performance and costs when you're using AWS? Maybe using the container services will be not so bad for performance, but much better for costs and for price of the costs.
It's an interesting question, and the focus of your question is on infrastructure and the cost of the infrastructure. And when we go to our customers, we can talk to them about cost optimization, and they're interested in it. Who doesn't want to save money? Where you're really going to save money, though, isn't in infrastructure. The infrastructure cost of your overall deployment, your overall project, is actually, you want to take every acceleration step in terms of getting your code developed as quickly as possible, tested as quickly as possible into market. You've got a great product, you know you're going to make money on it. Really, DevOps is about enabling it, making sure it's high quality. So you can save money by reducing your builds, but really, do you want to wait? Do you want to wait that extra couple of hours for that particular feature to be
My question
tested?
was on the searching for balance.
Yeah.
Question was about balance between performance and cost. Because you cannot save costs on infrastructure, but when you're spending on your testing and building infrastructure hundreds of thousands of dollars per month, it's too much. Sometimes it's too much for even big companies.
Yeah. No, we do get that. So where's the balance? It's going to be different for every project. We see people doing this approach where for every feature branch they'll have this configured and they'll want to enable their development team as much as possible. We see people doing queues as well. That balance is really just that's down to your CFO. That's you can do everything. That scale is there. You can go super cheap, or you can go. You can do this all on spot instances if you want, and do it overnight and at half the price of a T2 Nano if you really want to save the money. That's a question for the CFO.
About the same slide, so what happens if something wrong happens? It's a destroy environment tense.
In terms of your deployment or your code?
Let's say in both cases.
Okay. I shouldn't have asked that, shouldn't I? Obviously the trick is to write perfect code and perfect deployment scripts. Error checking is central to all of this. Every single step that you do, you're gonna check. Something like Jenkins is built specifically to get all that error checking and make sure that your pipeline is exactly that. That if there's an error in it, then you stop. You have to go back to the starting point. You have to figure it out. I'm not going to pretend that we've never written bad code. That's not true. So it's the same pretty much for your code. Your automated tests are going to pick that up if there's an issue, hopefully, or your manual tests. If it's a deployment issue, really it's not an issue, not a big issue, unless it's during your cutover. That's the only place that it's going to cause you a headache and guys get caught.
Any more questions?